Welcome to the Fort Collins Fellows podcast, from Colorado State University to New Belgium Brewery, and the hundreds of miles of hiking and biking trails. Fort Collins has earned its well-deserved reputation as one of the top places to live in the United States. Join the fellas as they uncover the stories, places, and people that make Fort Collins so extraordinary.
I am thrilled. This is a special guest. I mean, Patrick, your wife, with us today, and also top 5 all-time female athlete in the history of Colorado State University, Janay Soukup. Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
and for the record, you would beat him in a 100-yard dash. We all know that. The reason I bring that up is because my wife and I have a bet right now. She thinks she could beat me in a 100-yard dash. And
I want to see maybe there's a Fort Collins Fellas event that we have to put on at some point.
Oh my God.
Those two go back to back, and some type of wager is on the line.
I feel like my ego would really get hurt if that happened, but it's okay.
That or someone's hamstring.
That's what I'm saying. We did what was it? At like one of our niece's birthdays last year, there was an obstacle course, and I just got smoked. I mean, I would like to say there was some type of like slippage that happened, but regardless, she came out of the tunnel, and then like 2 seconds later, I came fumbling out. So, well,
the good news is your kids aren't going to be competitive at all. I mean, it'll
be definitely interesting, which, will be like, it's definitely something worth talking about here is like, kids being raised in Fort Collins, Chris and myself, and I've talked with Janay about this, kids being raised in Fort Collins in a smaller, city town that we were just talking with Scott about, that may not have like the major opportunities that like somebody who grew up in Denver or like a Los Angeles, or the exposure or ability to have these world-class coaches that, could help you progress in your athletics if that was what you wanted. But, Janay, why don't you give us a little background about like where you grew up in, where you grew up and how you came to Fort Collins and how you came to be with such a goofy looking dude.
Yeah, I think that's the $64,000 question.
Well, I'm a military brat. So my dad was in the Air Force. And so I moved around all over the place, but I was born in Florida at Tyndall Air Force Base. Lived there for 7 years. And then I moved to Utah, lived there for 5, I think, and then to Alaska and was there for all of my high school. And so I graduated from high school, was getting recruited because of track and field out there. I was mostly a basketball player, but I did do track and field, which is kind of my way and means of getting an education. And I got a scholarship to CSU. And it was kind of a history from there. So that's how I ended up out here at Colorado. So
growing up, siblings, were you the only track and field kind of, were you any other brothers or sisters doing any of that? Or you were you're in Alaska. I guess that's what, I didn't know that before we started. I'm like, Alaska, am I reading that correctly?
Yeah. Alaska, sports and stuff in general, Alaska is small there, but for the most part, they've got all the sports and events there. And I was mostly a basketball player. I actually didn't even like track. It was just, I like to compete, but I didn't want to run because who likes to run? Because it hurts. That's awful, so. Yeah.
I tell that to my wife every day. It doesn't get me anywhere. So.
Yeah. So for me, track was a means to an end. I ended up getting a scholarship out to CSU and I ended up falling in love with the sport actually. So
you've been in Fort Collins for 20 years then, is that right?
Mm-hmm. Since 2003, I've been here.
What would you say has been the biggest thing that you've seen change in this town since you came here?
I'd say if anything, it's exploded with the population. Just so many people, buildings going up everywhere. Places that used to be just open spaces are now, apartment complexes and new commercial buildings and all kinds of stuff. So I just feel like it's filling in for sure and definitely getting a lot more diverse as well.
Yeah. I know my brother went to Colorado State and graduated in like 05 or 06. Because were you 03? Is that right, Janay?
I started in 03, actually.
We started in 03. And Peter is always talking. He's like, man, I don't even recognize the campus that much anymore.
Yeah.
Just the new buildings that they put in there. Obviously the stadium that they built on
that stadium that they did was just like such a smart move because it's bringing people back to the campus. Like I've been in Fort Collins my entire life, or Northern Colorado my entire life. But after I graduated in 2011, I didn't have any reason to go back besides like maybe a sporting event here and there, but like the track field is like kind of on the outskirts of campus. And so I didn't really have to go into the campus, but that, stadium really has allowed people to explore what growth CSU has had. And I mean, CSU is, definitely grown, gone there.
And they just closed. The city of Fort Collins just bought the old Hughes Stadium land. I think they just closed on that this week officially. So that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, talk to us about, Janay, when you got here to Fort Collins, like what was like some things that maybe like you enjoyed, were like wow opportunities, like wow events for you? Like when you got here in 2003, is it CSU that kept you here? Or talk to us about like what has allowed you to be here for 20 years?
Well, first and foremost, friends. The friends that I made here kind of kept me here. They were actually a lot of the local folks. So my best friend is from Fort Collins, born and raised, went to Fort Collins High School. Obviously, I met you here. So that was one of the reasons why I stayed. But the community and the environment, I mean, it's beautiful out here. It's gorgeous. There's so many things to do outdoors. CSU holds a lot of events in general. They have like concerts and things like that kind of keeps you around, that you want to stick around and be a part of. The Horsetooth is right up there for doing hiking, swimming, all the outdoor stuff. And I didn't grow up doing all that stuff. So being introduced to all of that while I was here was a big reason why I stayed as well, because I didn't know paddleboarding was a thing. And when I figured it out, I was like, take me paddleboarding. I want to go dive off a rock into the Horsetooth Lake too. So a lot of outdoor stuff kind of kept me here as well. And then just the community in general. I like a college town. I like, seeing the students. I like seeing it fill up with, tons of people from all over the place. And then, being around all these different people, it's nice. I like it.
I mean, Colorado State, it really is. I don't know if you'd call it the heartbeat of the town, but it kind of is. It's
Well, Darren Adberry, if you remember, he made a comment, he said, if there's anybody who ever suggests that CSU is not the backbone of Fort Collins, they're crazy.
Maybe the backbone. Yeah, that's a better way of putting it. But Janay, I kind of want to go, so you got here in 2003, track and field. You came from Alaska. I'd love to kind of get your take, like how it was being an athlete, coming to Fort Collins, coming to CSU. Now, a lot of things have changed. We can talk about the NIL stuff. And, it's a different world in terms of college sports and athletics. But I'd love to kind of get your thoughts, like when you first got into CSU and you got acclimated to, the university and Fort Collins, and you were part of, a big athletic program. How was that, kind of getting, acclimated and adjusting to that?
I think it was fairly easy, in terms of getting just acclimated and adjusted. You come to a beautiful place. You've got people who are familiar with it and they're introducing you to all these activities and things that you can do. And then you have a team with you, your fellow, athletes, track and field, who are in the trenches with you. So you kind of just make this bond with people, both on the track and then obviously with school and things like that. It was really easy to just get in and kind of fit in. I attribute a lot of my feeling of home here because of my teammates and because of the people that were around me, my coaches, my support system. They were a lot of the reason why I loved it here and why there was really no reason for me to go anywhere else. It was.
Do you think that was part of your success eventually, getting to the Olympics, winning an Olympic medal? You give a lot of credit to that kind of, that support system that CSU gave you.
Absolutely. Track and field is pretty much an individual sport. So in some ways you're, don't have a team in that sense. But when you are standing on the line and it's CSU and you've got 1 point to make and you're trying to win that, Mount West Conference Championship, they're yelling and they're screaming and they're giving you all of what you need in order to just dig deep and find what you need to.
God, I'm getting like goosebumps just hearing you say that.
Push extra hard. So absolutely, I attribute a lot of my success to the community around me, CSU in general, who was all, very supportive in my career. So
yeah, well, I think I have one question. I know a lot of personal information. I got about 15 years with you to know the background, but there was an opportunity for you, probably the easiest opportunity for you to leave in your entire life or career was when your coach chose to take an opportunity to coach at Idaho. He was her long jump coach for her entire career at CSU. After she went professional, became an Olympian, won a medal even, he had an opportunity to leave, and he did, to go to Idaho, just kind of picked up his bags and left to Idaho. And she was still in the prime of her career. She did have an injury at that time. So she was kind of at this like inflection point of her career of like, do I continue? My coach has left. I have this major injury. what do I do? And there wasn't too much. I mean, I should say you owned a house at that time, but there wasn't a ton necessarily other than that was tying you to Fort Collins. So what kept you here? Why didn't you follow him to Idaho, or why didn't you go to the California Training Center?
That was actually a really hard decision, knowing that my coach it was a huge surprise that he had decided to take this position and leave. And I was in a kind of a funny situation where I had an injury. I wasn't performing well. I was at risk of losing my contract because I wasn't performing well. So it really came down to, what do I want? And I wanted to continue to perform well. And I knew that uprooting everything that I knew from just the friends that I had here, CSU, the support, I was training there. That was where I lifted. That was where I, really got down in the trenches and was dying on the track every day. That was home for me. And to leave that, I felt was more of it was going to be more detrimental to my outcome in the end than it was to stay. And so for me, I needed to stay here, figure out a new coach or coach myself if I needed to. But here was where I needed to make the change and to, get healthy and all of that.
Yeah.
So the decision was all about, this was home for me, and leaving it would have made it worse.
And then fast forward, you did make it to the 2016 Olympics.
I did. I ended up utilizing the CSU track and field coaches here. I asked the jump coach to train me as well as the hurdle coach to train me. And so I had kind of dual coaches at the time, and they were more than willing to help me. They were open. They understood kind of my situation, that I was like on rocky roads with my contract, and they were willing to get down in the trenches with me and say, okay, let's do this. Let's start from scratch. Let's figure out a plan. What are we going to do to help you get to where you need to be to keep your contract and to have some more success in track and field? And so they really stuck behind me and allowed me to use the facilities and to do whatever it is I needed in order to come back and make the 2016 Olympic team.
Yeah. Quick question on the facilities at CSU. I know there's the track right off College, the track right there, kind of by Cafe Vino, right across the street. Yep. Did you used to run there? I feel like that's been there since I was a kid.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then they had the big, the indoor right down College Avenue on the left-hand side. Is that where you kind of did most of your training when you?
Yep, that's where all the magic happened.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So before we get into the 2012 Olympics and kind of going down that, I'd love to just get your thoughts. And also, I want to know where this bronze medal is in your house. I'm really worried about that. But what advice would you give, somebody that's, looking to make an Olympic team and where they're trying to decide where to go to school, and you decided to go to CSU. And that obviously was an amazing decision because you made the Olympics more than once. You won an Olympic medal and you had a great support system. So what's some advice you would give some of these younger people that are in your shoes? And I know, holy cow, I know a lot of them would love to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah. When it comes to making a really big choice like college, like where do you want to go to? I think the first thing is, where do you feel like you can make a home? Because it's not home. It's not where you came from. It won't be the same coaches. It won't be your same friends and all of that. You're going to a totally new environment. You have to go somewhere where you feel like I can make this what I need it to be to have success. And so I know a lot of people have a lot of peer pressure, family pressure to go to certain schools because, it's my alma mater. It's, your family went to this school, whatever kind of pressures you feel or scholarship at this other school. You really got to just ignore everything that the other folks are saying and go, what feels right for you? Where do you feel like you can establish a good team where you connect with a coach? Because, having a good relationship with your coach is important, and where you feel like you want to have your success at. And that's the biggest thing I think you can consider is, am I going to feel like this is where I'm going to have the most success at?
I love that because like you just said, like your coach left. And if you go to a place strictly because of the coach, like what happens when the coach leaves or if they leave, and now you're kind of stuck going, oh man, I don't really like this town, or I don't really like, I don't like this community. And now you're kind of stuck there in some ways.
Yep.
So
that's a great point. And I think it would be interesting conversation for, people to have with themselves if they're coming to a community. And I've honestly always was wondering why Fort Collins doesn't do better, because we are such a great place to live that, like, how do we not get the best recruits? But I also get it that our athletics. Now, granted, CSU has a phenomenal track program and volleyball program. While we don't have the best football or basketball, it sounds like football is coming up in the ranks, but it would be, I've always thought, I'm like, man, why don't we get better recruits because it's such a great place to live. But I know there's a lot of other.
I feel like that's, the women's basketball team, the men's basketball team, those are getting better. I always think about that too. And I feel like, obviously football is just like the moneymaker for universities. So it kind of like starts there and then everybody kind of like goes off that. But I do feel like that's changing. And I hope it's changing, and I think Coach Norvell, and it all kind of ties together, like the athletic programs and everything like that. And, like rising tide rises all boats, something like that. I think hopefully that's coming. But I got to ask about 2012 Olympics. First of all, track and field, like long jump. How did you choose the long jump? I guess my first thought was it just like, hey, it was natural for you, but how did you decide that was the direction you were going to go?
It started back in high school. It was just kind of an event you try, and I was good at it. I mean, honestly, it was just, I was pretty decent at it. I had some speed and I could carry it down off the runway and jump far. So where it started. I had some natural talent at it, and then realized, hey, it's kind of fun to jump in the sand. And so as you start to figure it out and get a little further, that just kind of is its own motivation. So it was real easy to go with the long jump because I was decent at it.
And so when you knew you're going to the 2012 Olympics, like, tell me a little bit about that, the opening ceremonies. I mean, there's very few people in this world that have done what you've done.
Yeah. Well, I have to go back because I think.
Go back.
I think it really started with the Olympic trials. That's kind of where it really started for me. It was all about, on Olympic years, athletes come out of nowhere. People you hadn't seen before, people you don't know who they are. They come out of nowhere and they are on point. They're hungry. They want to make the team. They're going to be performing some of the best performances of their lives, doing this, running the fastest, jumping the furthest, throwing the furthest. So you always know. And that's kind of the biggest barrier to making any team is, can you get on the American Olympic team, the U.S. Olympic team? Because if you can do that, the chances of you actually medaling and being top 3 are very high. So it was just
because the competition's so good.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So just making the team was like, can I do this? That was my biggest barrier. The Olympics, I feel like once I get there, I'm good. I got this. But making the team, that was the hard part. And so that year, in which no other year has it been as hard to make a team. But in 2012, it took over 7 meters, over 23 feet just to make the team, which
I'm reading it right here. It's crazy.
It had never taken, that far. And the 4th place jump would have won the Olympic trials any other year prior to.
Oh my God.
And so just I remember not being able to eat, not being able to sleep, not necessarily stressing, but just ready and not being able to relax because I'm like, I got to make this team. And I remember, there was a girl named Chelsea Hayes who we didn't know who she was. She was a college athlete who got 2nd place, who jumped 7 meters 10 out of nowhere. And then Brittany Reese, we expected her to make it, but I also expected me to make it. And I had actually gotten 3rd going into the trials or at the trials, but I was ecstatic because that was the biggest hurdle and obstacle that I'd ever come across before. And
she jumped like 703 or 7, something like that. And the 4th place jumped 699. So she was like right behind.
For our less mortals, that's like 23 feet.
23 feet, yeah.
Okay. I'm like, I could jump 7 feet, I think. Got meters. We're talking meters here, people. Meters, all right. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah. So that, in and of itself, the Olympic trials was and is always one of the hardest competitions out there because the U.S. team is hard to make. And so having made the team, it kind of felt like at the Olympics, I'm going to win a gold medal. There's no way I'm not going to win this, So I went to the Olympics prepared, ready to win a gold medal. Like there was you couldn't tell me I wasn't going to win. That's how good I felt. And I remember going down the runway I don't even know if it was my
fourth jump.
My 4th jump. And I remember I hit the board and I landed and I was like, that's my gold. That's my gold right there. And a red flag went up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh no.
And it was like a toenail.
It was a toenail. So they used the plasticine to decide if you make a mark on the plasticine, it's considered a foul. It doesn't matter whether they saw it or not, but if there's a mark on the plasticine, it is a foul.
I was telling her for years to clip her nails. She didn't listen to me.
And I looked at the plasticine. I saw a toenail. Just a little nick in the plasticine. Who knows? It could have been there for all I know. But
I was about to say, did somebody not clean that off? Yeah.
And I remember thinking that was my gold medal jump. I jumped so far. I don't know what it was. I'll never know.
Oh, they don't give you the
they
distance.
Don't give you a courtesy mark at all. No.
Yeah.
But I remember going, oh my gosh, that was it. And so I had 2 more jumps. I was in 4th place. I wasn't even in 3rd place at the time. I was in 4th place. I was chasing that jump, knowing like if I can just do that again, I'll make it. And so I was just trying too hard. I didn't relax. I made it harder for myself. And I went down on the 5th jump. It wasn't any further. And I remember going down on my final jump. I hit the board. I jumped 689. And thinking, oh my gosh, the girl after me who has another opportunity to out jump me. And she was from Latvia. I remember thinking to myself, please foul this jump. Please foul this jump. Don't mark it or just don't jump far. I mean, I never wish, ill will on anybody, but I sure wish that she just did not jump further than me. And she went down the runway. She jumped 688. So a centimeter shorter than me.
Got you into 3rd.
Got me a 3rd place jump. And I remember going, oh, thank God. And so, I held my flag out. I was ecstatic on the surface, but deep down, I was very upset. I was very upset because I knew that my 4th jump was a gold medal jump.
What ended up being the distance for gold medal?
712.
It wasn't
712. I believe.
Maybe that was what it was.
And then 702 was
silver.
Sounds right.
Do you remember who got gold and silver?
Brittany Reese got gold and
Daria Klashina.
No.
Oh,
yeah.
Svoboda.
Can't remember her name, but she's from Russia.
But
Svoboda.
Oh, it was not.
So American won gold though.
Mm-hmm.
So the national anthem got to play when you were on the podium.
Exactly. It was almost like, hey, this is for me. So it was nice to see that. And of course, I support Brittany Reese. I was very happy for her and then happy for me. And my bronze medal, a lot of people say, oh, is that a gold medal? I was like, oh, no, but it kind of looks like gold, doesn't it?
Janay, that's the greatest. That's like one of the greatest stories I've ever heard. That is awesome.
Well, Janay's she's always been like a gamer, right? Like, and then like 2016 Olympic trials, I should say, she had switched legs to her right leg. And I was not there. I can't remember.
Real quick, what does that mean to switch legs? Like what leg you're launching off of?
Yeah. So your plant leg, the leg you jump
plant leg.
Of.
And switching legs is probably a big deal, I'm assuming.
It's a huge deal.
Okay.
Probably the hardest thing you could do in the sport is switch a jump leg.
I think like the story of her doing it is like would be very interesting, like a 30 for 30 type deal. But track and field is such a small market, but it's crazy. Like, dude,
imagine, you write and do calligraphy.
Yeah.
And that's your job.
Yeah.
And you have an injury to your hand and now you need to switch the hand and it needs to be just as good.
Oh my God.
That would be very hard to do. I mean, it's got to be just as good or you're going to get fired.
So why make the change? You got to change it up a little bit, or what was the thinking?
It was because of the injury. I was kind of forced to do it. I could not jump off of my left leg any longer. It was just too painful. It wasn't healing correctly.
The flexion wasn't there.
I lost, just the range of motion in the ankle. There was just no strength. It was difficult. So I had to switch. It was either switch or give up the sport. And I wasn't willing to give up the sport.
God, that is so
switch.
But so the story that I was going to say is that she was at the trials. I was not able to be there for whatever reason. And I was listening or watching, and she was in 4th place or something like that, or not even, maybe like 7th or 8th. Like
I was not even a top. Yeah.
It wasn't, but it was her final jump and she jumped again off her right leg, jumped 699 or something like that to jump up into 3rd place. And I was just like, so she's a gamer. So before we jumped on the air, she goes, if it was like a workout competition, she would win. It's just because she just has this like switch. Like she just
I don't like to lose.
She does not like to lose. No.
I hate losing too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, track and field is a losing game or a losing sport. You just you lose most of the time, but that's how you get better.
That's how golf was for me. You're losing 98%. Actually, you're losing a lot.
Oh, man.
But still fun. You still learn.
That is so crazy today. So you got 3rd in the 2016 trials.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you didn't make the team in 2016, or did you?
I did.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Top 3 and Olympic A standard gets you to the Olympics, and it was in Rio. And I still was, dealing with the nagging injury of the left ankle and it not being 100%. And so I didn't perform as well. I didn't get up on the medal stand, but I made 2 Olympics and off of 2 different feet. And
2 more than I've made.
Yeah.
By the way, where was the 2012 Olympics?
In London.
Oh, that was London. Oh, that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah.
so London in 12 and then Rio in 16.
Dude,
Okay.
talk about a juxtaposition of like Olympics. Like it's very unfortunate. I mean, I know Rio is like trying to like bring up this, not a developing country, but their financial strain on them was just over, like it was crazy. So it just was not even close. And then London was just a world class. It's unfortunate that the world didn't get to experience Tokyo to whatever level they could have because of COVID, because Tokyo, I'm sure would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But
so to kind of, we'll bring this back. We were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. So, I mean, 2-time Olympian, bronze medalist. You're now in Fort Collins. You got 3 kids and you're super competitive. And tell us, I have a 6-month-old. My wife is super competitive. Let's kind of bring this full circle back to Fort Collins. But what's, I guess, are you going to I don't know how to say this because, are you going to push your kids to do certain things? I mean, we want them to be active, and Fort Collins is amazing for outdoor activities. And you're a great example of you can go all the way and become one of the best athletes in the world. How are you approaching, raising your kids in Fort Collins and having the background that you've had? And talk a little bit about that and kind of, maybe they, it's funny because maybe they won't like sports. Maybe they will like sports or, it's
a player or something.
Yeah. I'd love to kind of, now you're an amazing mother and we just heard what you've done in the past. And, how do you kind of fit that into Fort Collins and raising kids?
Well, Fort Collins is a great place to raise kids. I mean, it's very safe and kid friendly. But in terms of, I think we have some pretty athletic kids.
I think, you don't need to go out on a limb on
mostly
that.
My doing. Mostly my doing.
Patrick, I tell my wife all the time, natural athlete. I'm a natural athlete, babe. Hand-eye coordination is there. Yeah. I stopped growing after I was 10 years old. That's the only problem.
I think the best thing I can do is expose them to the sports and just, athletics and our healthy lifestyle. We like to get out there and hike, and we go and we have a park that's right next to our house. We go to the gym every day. I think just exposure is the best way to allow them to figure out what they want to do. They're so young right now that who knows what it is they're going to end up doing. But at least them having some experience with a little bit of everything will at least help guide them in a direction that they go, either they want to do a sport, like my kiddo does gymnastics and ballet and swimming and all these other things. And I don't think I'm going to be that parent that forces them into any one particular sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They at least got to try it though, especially track and field like they are right now. But I definitely want to help cultivate a love for athletics, or, just being healthy in general, so that they can make their own decision and decide what they want to do. And I'll help support them in that endeavors. I
love that. And I think Fort Collins is an easy place to do that.
Yeah.
It's easy to get them involved in these things and take them on hikes. And we got a huge park right down the street from our house. I'm like, I get to go throw the baseball with him when he can do, or kick the soccer ball, or do, pretend to do the long jump and things like that. And I think that's one of the great things about Fort Collins is it's just an easy place to live. And then it's an easy place to raise a healthy child and healthy family and expose them to whether it's, running and exercise or just, eating healthy.
We've got this weekend and during the summers, this is our second summer. They're involved with Carrot Track, which was around when I was growing up, but now our kids are involved in it. And basically it's just, there's, I think all the way up through high school, you can do it, but lots of younger kids, all 3 and up is when you can start. And Rocky's doing it now and Nola's doing it, and it's her second year, but
trying to do it.
Yeah. And we went to Brighton 3 weeks ago. We went to Longmont 2 weeks ago. This weekend's in Fort Collins, and it's half a Saturday, but the opportunity for them to get out and get exposed to it has been great. And I'll be really interested, Chris, to your question, as far as like I've told Janay, when I was I grew up in Fort Collins, and Ryan Yoder, who is a successful business person here in Fort Collins, was extremely successful at CSU, but he had a little bit of an opportunity to play in the NBA. I think he played in their summer league before it was over, too popular, but didn't actually make the team. But that was the best coach that I could get in Fort Collins for basketball, because that was just how small of a community. And now it's grown so much. And Janay will obviously be able to be a phenomenal coach for our kids and maybe others, but definitely our kids. But Fort Collins also now has power to play and different facilities and professional coaches, and just the growth of Fort Collins and the exposure and the opportunity for your kid to have coaches that have had, world-class experiences is now much more available than when we grew up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it's funny. I remember playing rec soccer. Remember the red jerseys, the red soccer,
the red and white
patches and everything like that. Like going back in the day, scored 4 goals in one game.
So many more opportunities. And like, I think we're just scratching the surface because we have people that move in from out of town that like are like, oh, you can do this, this, and this. And I'm like, how do you know this? Like, I've been here forever. So like, there's so many things that we don't know that like we have to explore
and figure out
for our kids.
Janay, speaking of coaching, obviously you're going to coach your kids, but has CSU ever reached out to you about coaching?
Well, I was doing volunteer coaching up until COVID.
Okay.
I was there, most of the week with them doing long jump coaching, sprint coaching with the coaches there. I enjoy doing a lot of the coaching and stuff. I don't know. It's on the table, something to consider doing.
Well, you got a busy schedule right now.
For a while. Yeah. 3 kids and working. Yeah, it's pretty busy, but I did a camp at one point, a sprint camp, and I might resume it. I might go back to doing something like that just because track and field's my love. So
what's anybody listening right now? And what is it like, whether it's an exercise or a drill that, somebody who's looking in to get long jump or anything like that? You got a little training tip?
A little training tip.
Fast.
Sprint speed is really what translates into distance. Okay. Yeah. So a good jumper is also typically a good sprinter.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I don't know if you can really, like, we have nephews and I was just like, oh my God, are they going to get fast? Can you get, how much faster that's a great question. I want to know how much faster can you get? Like if I am running X today, like there's also God placed limitations on us of how quickly my legs can move, but how exactly can my legs move?
Yeah.
With training.
Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, talent plays a role in how fast you're going to be.
Patrick and I already have that. We got the natural talent.
There you go. And the other part of it is good old fashioned technique. And I mean, sometimes people just don't know what that is and what that looks like. And so that has to be learned. And I had to learn that too. I was, all my technique and form was just hideous prior to getting to college. And then obviously post collegiate and to professional world, but
there's a lot of digs that Janay gives to me about my running form and like my things that I do with my athletic. It's like, I thought I was pretty good, but I guess not. So
boy, I mean, this we could really go down a rabbit hole right now with Patrick's running form, but
it's not horrible, but it's not.
It could be better.
It could be quite a bit better.
But I gotta say,
wants me to coach him is the problem.
Leave that to the kids. Although I saw that video of you doing that standing jump. That was pretty impressive.
That was my only ability is I would say I'll be very interested to see how our kids turn out. Because like one of the things that I think Janay is like I use Janay as an example of like not pushing my kids in sports. Now, granted, there's going to be sports like golf, baseball, hockey, like very skilled sports that you need to be grinding and putting in the time to be better at. But like to Janay's point earlier, what she said, she was a basketball player and then she just happened to be extremely good at jumping far and, extremely athletic.
Yeah.
And she really didn't put the effort in really until her junior year in college. I think it was that she's like, I could be good at this. So maybe I should try, And so it's like
fell in love with this movie.
To our kind of, and I think we both agree with this as far as like raising our kids, like we're really not going to push like athletics and working out and training. Like if they want to do it, great. We're here for them and to be supportive of them. But like, we're not going to require like what we hear about parents down in Texas, like you're got to get in that batting cage for 4 hours a day and destroy our relationship with our kids. Like we want them to have fun. And I think they'll be naturally gifted, but as far as how far they can take that, like Janay isn't like she can attest to, she didn't commit.
I think, when it comes to supporting your kiddos, they have to want to do it. If you're going to force them to do anything at all, they're going to hate it. So just knowing that they have our support, I think will help them be successful in whatever they choose to do.
I love it. I think we end it kind of right there. But Janay, first of all, amazing athlete, everything like that, but an even better person. So I think that's the most important thing when it comes to,
I think the partner plays a big role in that of how good of a person she is. But.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that, but I 1,000% agree with Patrick. Said there.
I am curious.
what your wife thinks.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. She's going to listen to this episode. I'm sure she will. And she's going to hear the running thing. And she's like, we gotta do the race. We got to race.
So we don't do a ton of drinking, but we do that we ask our guests is where would you prefer a beer on a patio? And I'm curious because maybe we don't go there all that often and maybe we could.
Would I prefer a beer on a patio?
What patio would you, or what is your favorite beer? You could answer that. Or what patio would you enjoy spending like a summer afternoon drinking a beer on?
What I've just realized is most of our guests are not Olympic athletes because they always have an answer right away.
Yeah, I'm not a big drinker, but I do like a good wheat beer.
Okay.
With like orange or lemon in it.
A little Blue Moon.
A Blue Moon for sure. Yeah.
Hit it on the head right there,
That's
Chris.
All right.
Yeah. And honestly, my back patio, my backyard, I like to be in the backyard, have a beer with my family, friends. That's the place I'd rather be.
I love that.
There's been a couple answers like that, honestly. Like, my back, which I like, it's your safe spot.
I'll tell you right now. I love my back patio, especially after
you did a big renovation on yours, didn't you?
Yeah. It's all done and
it looks great.
Sit back there and
nice.
Just look at my zucchinis.
Hi, gross.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, I appreciate you joining us, Chris, in this conversation. It's always interesting to sit close to her and hear her perspective on these things because, I know the intimate details, but she's very, I would say, very transparent. These are all things that we've had conversations with, so not hiding anything. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Janay, I love it. Thank you so much. I just hearing that story about the Olympics, that was awesome. That was so cool.
Yeah, thank you.